So we're going to look at the section on irregularities. For this part of the video, we're going to look at submitting an irregularity report. Now, for our district, these are the two more common reasons why a room supervisor or the test coordinator would do an irregularity report. Cell phone, and if a student has a cell phone during testing rather, and it goes off or it beeps or the student uses it, that is prohibited behavior, and that's a void, and the student cannot do a makeup. The second one is that student goes to the restroom. Yes, even if a student goes to a restroom, you have to do an irregularity report. Notice though, student does not make up lost time. So if the student leaves for 5 minutes, that student has lost 5 minutes. The room supervisor must record when the student stopped testing and when the student returned. Indicate this time on the irregularity report. This is not prohibited behavior, so the student can continue testing, but the student cannot make up the time. Now, for this example, we're assuming the student returns during the same test. If the student returns after the test has ended and the new test has begun, that's a different situation. It is still not prohibited behavior, but we're going to talk about that at some point. But in this video, we are just interested in how to submit an irregularity report. Okay, so we're going to look at the first five steps, and then we're going to do those 5 steps in Pearson Access, and then we're going to continue on with step 6. So step number 1, you're going to select a testing icon in Pearson Access Next. Now remember, the test coordinator or room supervisor uses Pearson Access Next to submit irregularity reports. Every occurrence should be reported and described in detail, especially those that could affect test scores. So if there is an irregularity, and the more common ones again, cell phone and student goes to a restroom. Those are irregularities. You're going to select the testing icon. Step 2, select student test to access the student test screen. Step 3, type in the last name of the examinee or examinees affected by this irregularity under Find Student Test, and then select Search. Note, if the irregularity affects an entire room, select all examinees present in that room. If it affects the entire test site, select all examinees present at the test site. Number 4, in the Select Task drop-down menu, select Manage Irregularities and then select Start. The Manage Irregularities screen appears, displaying the selected examinees. And number 5, check the box next to each of the selected examinees. Do not skip this step. All right, so let's go to Pearson Access and let's perform those 5 steps. So let's suppose we have a student that had a cell phone on them. Did not use it, but it beeped, so that's still prohibited behavior. All right, cell phone had to be turned in to the test coordinator. So it beeped. Or it could be that the room supervisor saw a cell phone in the student's pocket. That's still prohibited behavior. Student is dismissed for prohibited behavior. You have to do an irregularity report. So let's do that example. Okay, so step 1, you're going to go to testing. We're in Pearson Access Next, and I just want to warn you, though, or not warn, but inform you that I am in as a room supervisor and not a test coordinator. So what a room supervisor sees is different in some respects than what a test coordinator sees. So I'm going to go to testing, and next step number 2, you're going to select Test. When you select Test, you're going to then get the student test screen. All right, Step 3, type in the last name of the examinee or examinees affected by this irregularity. So I'm just going to do one student. So let's say the student's last name is last and then DV. And then we're going to search. All right, so when I search, there's the student. The student's last name is slash DV. Okay. And all right, so then in step 4, you're going to select task drop-down menu. Before you do that, make sure you put a check mark next to that student. So put a check mark to the student. Then let's go to step 4. In the select task right here, the drop-down menu. See the drop-down menu. Select manage irregularities. So click on manage irregularities and then click on start right here. When you click on start, you now get this information. Okay, so so then we're going to check the box next to each of the examinees. Do not skip the steps. So here's the box right here that we're talking about. That's step 5. Check this box. All right, so now we've selected one student. All right, now let's look at the remaining steps before we do anything else. So here's the remaining steps. So step 6, enter irregularity date, time, the irregularity type, and the comments at the top of the screen. Note, and let me show you what they mean by that. So the top of the screen, they mean this right here. All of this. See this? The very top. Okay. Now let's go back. Note, be sure the irregularity date time reflects the date and time that the irregularity occurred. So the moment the irregularity occurred, make sure you indicate the date. So the cell phone beeped at 8:45 a.m., then you quickly write it down. 8:45 a.m. is when it beeped. Okay? This can be typed in or entered using the calendar clock icon pop-ups located to the right of this field. Select the calendar icon to access the calendar and choose the correct date. Next, select the clock icon at the bottom of the calendar and choose the correct time. Second bullet, the comments field allows a maximum of 1,000 characters. If that is insufficient to provide necessary information, include the statement, additional details on file in the comments field, and keep a full written account of the irregularity in your files for 12 months. A comment is required when reporting an irregularity. If an examinee was dismissed, note this in the comments field. And then once you do that, you're going to go to step 7 and you're going to click on select apply to select it. All right, so let's do step 6 and 7. So I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way. All right, so here's the student. So remember the cell phone. All right, so let's say the date occurred today. So, well, and remember, whenever it occurred, that's when you should do the irregularity. So let's say it's today, January 16th, 2022. All right, so I'm going to click on that date. And then you see this clock icon, that's what they're referring to. So let's go ahead and click on this. Oops, let me go back. So I'm going to select the date, excuse me. So let's go back. I'm going to go back to the calendar. Here's the calendar. All right, here's the clock icon. So it's January 16th. Let's do the time. So the time, let's say it was at 10:20 a.m. when the student's cell phone beeped. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and notice it said January 16th, 10:20. Okay, now let's do the irregularity type. So these are all the irregularities that are available. Now there's still another one that says staff other. All right, so examinee cell phone use or other device, and then some others. So copying, giving, receiving assistant, item challenge, illness during test, late, did not test, student took paper test, and so on. So you have some examinee, irregularities, you have environmental irregularities, you have technical irregularities, and then you have stop irregularities, irregular staff behavior, or other. All right. So our example was a cell phone. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and then you're going to type in detail. So you're going to say student cell phone beat during test 1. Student was dismissed when this occurred. Let's see. Then also say void test. Student will not take makeup. Remember, prohibited behavior. Student is dismissed and cannot take a makeup. All right. So something like that. So make sure it's in detail. All right. So indicate the test that the irregularity occurred in, and more information. Student was dismissed when this occurred. Void test. Student will not take makeup. Okay. All right. And then, see, that's a student. So we click the student, right? So click the student, and then once you click on apply to selected, all this information will then be populated here. Okay. So watch. I'm going to click on apply to selected. So remember, that was step number 7, right? So look, step number 7. Step number 7, apply to selected. So once I click on apply to selected, notice what happens. Watch right here. All of this will be transferred to this. So apply to selected, and you see it was transferred to this. And then you don't forget to click save. Click save. Okay? And then notice save as success, saved all changes. All right, so ACT will get that information. This information will also be sent to the district coordinator. Okay, so when we click the save, the next step is to exit task. Just to show you, that is step number 9. All right, so we went from step number 7 to step number 9. Okay, so before I go ahead and exit task right here, before I go ahead and do that, here's what step number 8 says. If another irregularity affected the same examinee, do the following. So let's suppose that examinee had 2 irregularities. Uncheck the box, so 8A, uncheck the boxes next to each examinee. Select that plus icon to the right of each examinee to add another entry line to each examinee. C, check the box next to the new line, and then note the new irregularity will be applied to all lines where the boxes are checked. Any existing information in those lines will be overridden and lost. Be sure only blank lines are checked before proceeding. And then D, repeat steps 6 through 8. And then step number 9, when finished entering irregularities, select save and then select exit task. Okay, so for this student though, we had already saved, and I think we can go back and if you want to do another irregularity on that student, we could do it at this point. Let's just check and see this. Okay, so before we go on though, if this was the only irregularity, then we save. See, it says saved, and then you would click exit task. All right, but let's suppose there was another one. All right, so let's go ahead and uncheck. It says step 8, uncheck the box next to the examinee. So I'm going to uncheck this box. All right, and then you see this little plus sign right here. We're going to click on that plus sign, and it's going to add a new line. Okay, and so let's say that, well, let's just look at some other irregularities that could have happened. Let's say let's do examinee other prohibited behavior prohibited or irregular behavior. All right, and let's say the student was disruptive. Okay, student was disruptive. Student was disruptive when told about, or disruptive when told she would be dismissed because of cell phone. All right. I mean, that is a prohibited behavior, disruption. Okay, so let's do that. And then the time occurred, so it had to be around that same time from previous, right? So let's say it was 10/20 as well. So let's do 16, January 16. Sorry, January 16, and then let's do 10/20. So let's scroll down till we get to 20. And I want to show you something also. So if I go back to, let's say 12, see right here, it's red. It won't allow you to do something like that because the current time, see this time right here, it always checks the current time. So right now it's 11:39 my time. So it's not going to allow you to save this because it has to be in the past of the present time. So let's go ahead and see. When I went back to 11:22, it allowed me. It's no longer red, so that'll be fine to use that time. But always use the exact time that these behaviors occurred. All right. So then the next step is to check the box of the new line right here. See that? Okay. Check that box. Now don't check. Be careful. Don't check this, because if you check this, then it says, note the new irregularity will be applied to all lines where the boxes are checked. Any existing information in those lines will be overridden and lost. All right, I see. All right, so it still said don't check this. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. Click save. Let's see what happens. All right, and so that's it. So this examinee now has 2 irregularities. All right. Let's see. There we go. All right, so it's all changes were saved. All right, and that's it. So that's how you can do more than one irregularity for a student. All right, so that was right here. Let me just go back to that page. This was the section on submitting an irregularity. So these are the steps. For the most part, you're going to do steps 1 through 7. Chances are you're not going to have more than one irregularity for a student, and then you're going to go from 7 to 9. All right. If you do have if there are 2 irregularities for that same student, then just go ahead and follow step 8. All right. So that was submitting an irregularity report. And I forgot to mention, always make sure you go back to exit task. And when you exit task, you now get to this pane right here, or to this page, and just go back to home, and we're now at the home page of Pearson Access Next. Okay, so the test coordinator has the ability to get the irregularity reports. The room supervisor does not have the ability. So here's where the test coordinator will go. So you're going to go to, so I'm in as a test coordinator. So here's where the test coordinator will go. So you go to reports, go to operational reports, and click on students and registration. So when you click on student and registration, go all the way to the bottom, and you see the 2, it says irregularity summary, irregularity reason, counts by organization and test, and then the other one is irregularity detail, report of irregularity for student test. So let's go ahead and do the detail and see what that is. So I'm going to click on irregularity detail, and go ahead and click on request report refresh, and then go right here and click refresh report right here, and then you're going to get this 2 curved arrows. So it says waiting for report to complete. Your report request has been submitted. Check back in a few minutes. So click on it. It doesn't take that long. So let's go ahead and click on refresh, the 2 arrows. Click on refresh. And then there's the report. We just got it downloaded. So let's go ahead and download it. And when I download and open, so it downloads at the bottom. You're then going to open it. And here is the irregularity report for that school. And so notice you have the student's last name right here. So remember there are two, remember that last name DV that we just did? There were 2 irregularities in that person. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight those. I'll go ahead and expand this so you'll see. So remember, it said here's the, right here, that column is the irregularity date. And then here's the reason label. So I'm going to go here. So the reason label up here says failed cell phone use, and the other one, remember, was other prohibited or irregular behavior. And so right here in column O, it actually says the reason that was indicated. Cell phone beep during test 1. Student was dismissed when this occurred. Void test. Student will not take makeup. And then the other irregularity report for that student was here as well. Student was disruptive when told she would be dismissed because of cell phone. Maybe we should have put some more information in there. Void test. Student will not take makeup. All right, but that's where you, the test coordinator, would go to get the irregularity reports. All right, and that was detailed. If you go to test coordinator, that is, if you go to reports again, go to operational reports, and it's still turning, and student registration, scroll to the bottom. This irregularity summary doesn't say much. Let me just show you. So you're going to go through the process, except this one's already downloaded. So I'm just going to download it again. But let me just show you. It doesn't indicate much. So you really want to use that other irregularity detail that was mentioned. So when it opens, this is all you get. You just get the how many occurrences occurred for this examinee cell phone use. There were 4. The other one, copying, giving, receiving assistance. That was 1. And then the other one, other prohibited or irregular behavior. That was 1. Okay, so that's just a summary of irregularities. What you probably, as a test coordinator, want to do is actually get the detailed information. All right, and so that is, let me go back to the online manual. So that is how a test coordinator or room supervisor will use Pearson Access Next to submit an irregularity report. And we also discussed how the test coordinator can retrieve the detail or summary version of the irregularities for testing. If you have any questions, let me know.